Cowboy, and you're listening to WFAN, Outside the Cage podcast.
Staying in the Pettis family, I loved how Pettis, he brought back the jiu-jitsu against Charles Oliveira, and then I don't know if it was the weight that was on his mind or what, because it didn't seem like he pulled the trigger. And we were both picking Pettis over Max Holloway. Can you take us through how's Anthony doing, what's next for him, and just basically how he's feeling? Because we're pulling. We believe he's one of the torch carriers in the UFC over the past 5 to 7 years.
Well, I'll give you my explanation of it. I know Anthony very well. We speak daily. We're very close, and he's in the halftime of his career. Now, mind you, if it's the halftime, I'm Al Pacino on any given Sunday. We got to get a pep talk going. But he's regrouping. 145 was the short way back to greatness, but he just is not dynamic at 145. He was doing great early on against Max, but he just ran out of steam. That weight cut was just too much. And you don't go from your first fight fighting at 146, and, he would hit the wall in that fight too. And then the next fight, he's fighting at 145, 5 rounds. It's just so tough. All credit to Max Holloway. Incredible fighter. Big fan. Really liked the man, and he was super respectful in the octagon afterwards. And in this day and age, I hold great value in the way fighters carry themselves. Stephen Thompson is a true martial artist as well. So is Max Holloway. That being said, Anthony has accomplished some incredible things in the sport at a young age. We're just refining what's his focus, what's his drive. He's not as naturally gifted and talented as people think he is. His thing, he puts so much work in to get so good at it, but sometimes you get a couple injuries. You're afraid to overdo it in training. You're afraid to make that push. Anytime you have a career-shortening injury or layoffs, etc., it gets you a little panicky. And we just got to get back to the right grind and getting his mind right. He's actually in Las Vegas this week doing some training. I'm very open-minded. I'm not I used to be a father-type trainer. When I say father, the father's almost overbearing. My dad was my coach for years, so I understand that relationship. And I love my father. In fact, Friday's his day, Patrick Roufus. He's a Greek Spartan, an Irishman. So he's half Greek, half Irish, and we celebrate St. Patrick's Day in a different way in Saints Day.
Fighter in the blood, man. Fighters in the blood.
Yeah, that being said, I've tried to be a grandfather now with my fighters. Give them advice. I offer them suggestions. I try not overbear anymore because, you know what, they're all young, tough, alpha male individuals that, and you know what, I don't want them fighting back at me. So when I see suggestions, I want them to be successful. So I'm of the style of boxing that teaches Cuban boxing. Ironically, a Thai coach I worked with, his name's Kong Napai. He lived with my family here in Milwaukee for 2 years. 4-time Rajadam champion, multi-time world Muay Thai champion. The unique thing, besides helping with the Muay Thai game, he was on the Thai national boxing team. He was also on the Olympic team there. He's very good at Cuban-style boxing. And it's a style I teach that's worked very well. That's why Serge did so great in his last few fights. He's a big student of the Boxe Cubano. But I got Anthony's out in Vegas doing some things. He's going to be training with Yoel Casamayor. I don't know if you remember him, former Olympic champion, 2-division boxing champion. And he's also working with Professor Salas out there, who's trained 18 world boxing champions. To me, I wanted to find a new focus working with other coaches that also are congruent with my style. So I'm open to always working with coaches as long as the styles are congruent to what we're teaching. And I'm trying to help him find different drives to get motivated. He's actually working and become friends with Jorge Linares, who's a WBC lightweight champion too as well. It's sometimes you take yourself outside. You're the man in MMA. You're the man in UFC. Go to the boxing gym, be the lower rung guy. He's been putting his kimono on a lot at Roufus Sport in jiu-jitsu. He's going through, I believe, this, not that he had an arrogance or a he's not an arrogant person. Even though he's got the name Showtime, his fight persona, Anthony is a very humble guy when it comes to martial arts and training and life. He really is. I think he's just going back to roots right now. He's getting back to being the martial artist that he was. And that's something I did in my career. Anytime I had a lull, I would go back to what made me climb the mountain. And I think he's redirecting himself in a few different ways, climbing that mountain. He's been training regularly. The other problem we had, the weight cut was so damaging that it affected his liver. And there's been some side effects from that. So we're recovering from that, and he's just getting healthy. The other problem is Anthony is a tweener. He's not big for a 55er. 145 is really hard to make it. He as well trains at next level where J.J. Watt and Sergio train. Problem is, when he hurt his patella, he went from that injury straight to the Ultimate Fighter at the earliest possible time from the injury. He went from the Ultimate Fighter right into camp for Gilbert Melendez. If you want to really, if you got your computers in front of you, look at Anthony's body when he fought Benson Henderson too, and look at his body when he fought Gilbert. They're two different specimens. And it's because he couldn't do the strength and conditioning. Right now, he's religiously at next level, 3 to 4 times a week, or when he's in Vegas with a specialist there. That's our biggest thing, getting his body back. A couple injuries, and I think at times, we've been a little impatient. We would, all right, the injury's up, let's go back and get a fight. The problem is what they do in NFL, NHL, the body use sports, they understand science better than we do when it comes to these bodies. They go rehab that body. A couple times with the elbow injury, the knee injury, we skipped the rehab process. And, that's something that we've learned, an invaluable lesson, that you can't fight rehab. You got to get your body back right. And that's the biggest thing that he's working on right now, because when Anthony's body's right, he's an immovable force. That's the guy that ran over Joe Lauzon. That's the guy that dominated Cowboy for the first time ever in his career, who beat him up. And that's the guy who broke Benson Henderson and armbarred him and ran through Gilbert Melendez, not even at 100%. So that, me knowing Anthony better than anyone, I need to get his body right with my wonderful people at Next Level. And when his body's right, his mind is right, and you're going to see spectacular Showtime again.